From broke to financially free, my real journey. There was a time in my life when I had nothing, not just in my wallet, but in my spirit. I was financially broke, emotionally drained, and mentally overwhelmed. I wasn't born poor, but like many others, I fell into the trap of bad financial habits, poor decisions, and a lack of education about money. What started as a few small loans and credit card swipes spiraled into a never-ending cycle of debt, anxiety, and hopelessness. This is my real, raw journey from being broke and beaten down to achieving financial freedom. And I want to share it not as a fairy tale, but as a guide for anyone who might feel trapped in the same place I once was. The fall into financial crisis. It didn't happen in one big disaster. Instead, it was a slow collapse caused by ignorance and poor money management. I had a steady job, but no savings. My expenses always seemed to rise with my income. I leased a brand new car, signed up for credit cards with high limits, and lived like I was wealthier than I was. I was trying to impress others more than I was trying to build a future. Emergencies came. Unexpected medical bills, car repairs, job instability, but I had no cushion to fall back on. I borrowed from friends, family, and payday lenders. Eventually, they even stopped helping. That's when I realized I was stuck in a financial hole with no ladder in sight. The moment everything changed. I still remember the night it all hit me. I was sitting alone in a dim room, surrounded by overdue bills, maxed out credit cards, and the buzzing of another call from a debt collector. I broke down. There was no one left to blame. That night, I pulled out a notebook and started writing everything down: my income, my expenses, my debts. It was the most painful but powerful thing I ever did. Seeing it all in black and white made it real. But it also gave me a roadmap. I promised myself that I would never be in this position again and that I would rebuild my life, $1 at a time. Learning the basics of money. I had no idea how money actually worked. Schools didn't teach it, and my family didn't talk about it. So, I educated myself. I read every financial book I could find: Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Millionaire Next Door, Your Money or Your Life, and The Total Money Makeover. I followed financial educators online, watched YouTube videos, and listened to podcasts during my commute. Slowly, I began to understand the difference between assets and liabilities, the dangers of compound interest on debt, and the power of compound interest in investing. Knowledge became my foundation. I realized money wasn't evil, it was a tool. A tool I had never learned to use properly. Creating a realistic budget and sticking to it. Once I had the knowledge, I created my first real budget. It wasn't glamorous. It was painful, tight, and full of sacrifices. I used a zero-based budgeting method, where every single dollar had a job. I tracked every cent that came in and went out. I stopped eating out, canceled all subscriptions, and cooked every meal at home. I shopped at thrift stores and learned how to live below my means. It wasn't easy at first. Friends would invite me out, and I had to say no. Social media tempted me with things I couldn't afford. But every time I resisted, I felt stronger. I wasn't just cutting costs, I was building discipline. Increasing my income with side hustles. I quickly realized that cutting costs wasn't enough. I needed to increase my income if I wanted to pay off debt and save. So I started hustling. I worked weekends as a rideshare driver. I picked up freelance gigs online, writing, editing, and graphic design. I even sold unused items from my home online. Every extra dollar I earned went straight to paying off my debt. I worked hard, early mornings, late nights, sacrificing weekends. But every sacrifice brought me closer to my goal. I discovered that I had skills people were willing to pay for, and that realization sparked a fire in me I didn't know existed. Destroying my debt one step at a time. With more income and a strict budget, I attacked my debt like a mission. I used the snowball method, paying off the smallest debts first to build momentum. Every time I paid one off, I celebrated. It felt like removing a chain from around my neck. I stopped using credit completely. I paid cash, used debit, and avoided anything that could pull me back into the cycle. It took me over 2 years, but I eventually became completely debt-free. The day I made my final payment, I cried. Not because I was broke anymore, but because I was finally free from the burden that had haunted me for years. Building my emergency fund and financial safety net. Once I was debt-free, I knew I needed to protect myself from falling back into that hole. So, I saved. I built an emergency fund of $1,000 at first, then expanded it to cover 3 months' worth of expenses. Having that buffer gave me peace of mind that I had never experienced before. I knew that if I lost my job or faced a medical emergency, I wouldn't need to panic. I wouldn't have to go into debt again. This safety net allowed me to take smarter risks and make better decisions. The shift to investing and long-term wealth building. With my foundation set, I started investing. I opened a retirement account and began contributing monthly. I kept things simple, index funds and ETFs, avoiding hype and focusing on long-term growth. I also started learning about passive income. I created digital products, started a small blog that I monetized, and eventually invested in a small real estate property. Each step required learning, patience, and some risk. But over time, my money began to work for me. I went from earning money with time to earning money with smart decisions. Changing my mindset and lifestyle permanently. Throughout this journey, the biggest transformation wasn't in my bank account, it was in my mindset. I no longer craved material things. I stopped comparing my life to others. I learned that financial freedom isn't about being rich, it's about having control. I found joy in simplicity, cooking, reading, walking in the park. I learned how to say no to temporary pleasure for the sake of long-term peace. I realized that true wealth isn't about flashy cars or designer clothes. It's about options, freedom, and the ability to live life on your terms. Where I am today and what financial freedom looks like. Today, I am proud to say I am financially free. I have no debt. I have multiple streams of income. I have savings, investments, and the confidence that I can weather any storm. I don't fear bills anymore. I don't panic when an emergency strikes. I no longer work just to survive. I work on things that fulfill me. I can help others, take care of my family, and even take time off when I want to. But most importantly, I sleep peacefully at night. Your journey starts now. If you are struggling financially right now, I want you to know that I was there. I know how it feels to avoid calls, to be scared of the end of the month, to feel like you're drowning. But I'm here to tell you that it is possible to escape. You don't need to win the lottery. You don't need a miracle. You need a plan, discipline, and the belief that you deserve better. Start today. Educate yourself. Track your money. Hustle if you have to. Say no to short-term pleasure for long-term peace. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. And one day, you'll look back and say, that was the moment I took control of my life. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching my real story. From being broke, scared, and in debt to becoming financially free and in control of my future. I shared this not to brag, but to prove that it's possible, no matter where you're starting from. If I can do it, so can you. If this inspired you, please hit the like button, subscribe for more empowering content, and drop a comment below sharing where you are on your financial journey. Let's grow together. Thanks for watching. Remember, the journey from broke to free starts with one step. Start today.